topics and discussion. So please let us know what speakers you want to hear from. Any ideas at all that you have, please send them to us because we want to hear from you. Now, we have a lot of information to cover today, but we're going to take questions at the end of the webinar, so be sure and stay tuned. And during the live webinar today, you can submit questions anytime via the Q&A box, and our lovely moderator, Yazmin, will be keeping track of all of those and sharing those with you during a Q&A. I also want to remind you that having a pen and paper handy for today's show is going to be vital to your virtual volunteerism that you're going to do today right here. So as an extra bonus, we also have some giveaways today. We're going to have some Wounded Warrior Project journals that you can use in the future with your family, Operation Gratitude t-shirt, and $25 Amazon gift cards. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you to the lovely Betsy Eves, who joins us from the state of Virginia. And Betsy, welcome to our show. We're so excited to have you here. I want to ask you a couple of questions about how you got involved with Operation Gratitude. But first, can you tell us a little bit about being a caregiver?
Okay, now that I'm unmuted, thank you very much. Yes, I can. So thank you, Jennifer, for having Kevin and myself on C3 today. I have been a caregiver to my husband, David, since 2014, when he had his first suicide attempt due to PTSD, his traumatic brain injury, and 3 major deployments that he endured. Since then, it's been an uphill, downhill struggle kind of every day. Most recently, about 6 weeks ago, he had his 4th suicide attempt. And so we're kind of right back in that crisis mode right now. So my role as his caregiver is to ensure that he stays safe and alive and that I take care of my family in the process.
Wow, Betsy, that's a lot. And in addition, you're also working for Operation Gratitude, serving others.
That's correct. Yeah. So I joined Operation Gratitude about 1.5 years ago when Kevin brought me on to kind of boost up the Wounded Hero and Caregiver program. So it's my passion in life to help the community that I'm a part of.
Well, they do say that sometimes helping yourself comes out of helping others. So I can definitely see where that comes from. Now, we have another guest here today, and we're going to talk more deeply with Kevin later on. But Kevin Schmigel is here, and he is the CEO of Operation Gratitude. Kevin, could you just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background? Because I see you may have some Marine Corps items behind you.
Sure, I'm a 20-year Marine veteran. I served from 1989 to 2009. So the first Gulf War, Operation Desert Shield, Desert Storm. And the latter part of my career, I deployed to more than 50 countries in Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. That sword behind me is also not just the sword I carried as a Marine, but my father's sword. And he served from 1963 to 1967 as a Marine. He gave that to me the day I was commissioned as a 2nd lieutenant, and he boxed it up for me the day I retired in 2009. I'm also the proud father of a Marine who's currently serving and getting ready to finish his reserve time here shortly. So I'm honored to be here with all of you.
We're so excited to have you. And as the mother of a Marine, I'm definitely, I'm feeling you today, and I had to give a shout, give a big ooh-rah, actually, to all our Marine families out there.
Hoorah.
Okay, now, Betsy, I want to get in here a little bit to the timeline of what we're going to do today. You and I are going to talk a little bit about Operation Gratitude and what virtual volunteerism is. That's actually a term that we don't hear very often. It sort of seems like a new term to me. But I also want to just talk a little bit about what Operation Gratitude has done up until this point. So could you give us a little bit of background on Operation Gratitude?
Sure. So we were founded in 2003 by Carolyn Blaszczyk, who started the organization in her living room after she found a need for deploying service members not having what they needed. And so she started collecting items and sending care packages from her living room. Fast forward to 2020, and the organization has sent more than 2.6 million care packages to deployed troops, veterans, first responders, wounded heroes, and caregivers. And I know a lot of people may have received them. This is one of our boxes that we typically give out, full of goodies. Not only do we do those care packages, but we also have volunteerism opportunities for grateful Americans across the country to build scarves and hats and knit and crochet, as well as make paracord bracelets and write letters that then go into those care packages. Last year we had over 1 million volunteers supporting Operation Gratitude's efforts.
1 million volunteers. Now I've got to know, how do you find 1 million people to volunteer for something?
Well, I mean, it's through things like virtual volunteerism and being able to go into your own home, your own community, your own network of people, and do things as easy as knit or crochet a scarf or write a letter. And every single person that writes a letter is considered a volunteer for us because they are taking their time to volunteer to give thanks to those people that we're serving. So we also have assembly days at our warehouse in California where we have thousands of people come together every month to build the care packages. And then we distribute the care packages and the care pouches in communities across the country. And we have volunteer opportunities for people in person to come to those, pay it forward through those deliveries. So we have a little bit of everything for everybody.
Now, I have to fully disclose here, when my brother was deployed, he received an Operation Gratitude care package. And a couple of years ago, I actually received one too. And it brought me to tears. I actually went on Facebook, was like, I can't believe I came home. I had this great box. There was hand sanitizer in there, which it was amazing, but also some puzzle books just to give me something to do, and some snacks and care items. It just really made me feel special. So I want to thank you for that. And I'm just curious, how did you evolve into providing these care packages to caregivers like me?
So the organization had always done it, but it had been on kind of a one-off kind of basis, where somebody would request and they would fulfill it. But I have a personal history with Kevin, and he asked me if I would come to Operation Gratitude and build out the Wounded Hero and Caregiver program. And so when I started there, I made connections with the partners that I already have in the nonprofit sector, like Elizabeth Dole Foundation, Dog Tagging, things like that, and started building boxes specifically for wounded service members and caregivers. So like you mentioned, Jennifer, the items in the boxes we have for this community are really specific to the needs of this community. I kind of call them my to-go box. There's items, respite items, snack items, personal hygiene items, anything you can kind of grab and go to doctor's appointments, VA appointments, things like that. It's really grown, and to this date, we've served almost 10,000 wounded heroes and caregivers in the last year and a half. So it's a growth.
That's incredible. And in addition, you're also giving care packages to first responders?
Yes, ma'am, we are. Since the COVID-19 pandemic broke out, we've had to do a pivot at the organization, and we can no longer assemble these care packages, but we still have the ability to give, and we still have donors and supporters that want to give. So we have expanded to sending items in bulk to police departments and fire departments, as well as to hospitals that are on the front lines of the COVID-19 pandemic. We are, I believe, up to, Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong, 80,000 frontline responders supported in the last few weeks since this all started. So it's been a huge adjustment for our entire staff and team, but it's been a huge success, and we're thankful that we have the ability to do it.
Well, I have to ask you, how is it that you've managed to do that? Do you have any partners that you want to give a shout out to?
We have, sure, we have a coalition that is with CSX, Credentials, the Starbucks Foundation, Veterans United Home Loans, Liquid IV. Kevin, who am I forgetting? But we have some really great partners. Mars Wrigley, that's who it was. Yep. And of course, we have some great nonprofit partners as well, such as the Dole Foundation, that are really helping to support us through these efforts.
All right. So we have before we dive into the very specifics of virtual volunteerism and Operation Gratitude, we have a video to show. So I'm gonna cue this up to Yazmin.
During these challenging times, Operation Gratitude is focused on two things: providing direct support to the brave men and women on the front lines of the COVID-19 pandemic, and giving every American the opportunity to express appreciation to frontline responders through virtual volunteerism in their own homes. In the coming weeks, together, we will lift the spirits of deployed troops globally and hundreds of thousands of first responders, emergency medical personnel, and National Guardsmen in cities and states most impacted by coronavirus. They cannot stop, so we will not stop. Over the next several weeks, we plan to deliver 5 million critically needed items and hundreds of thousands more letters of appreciation to frontline responders across the country. The fact is, those numbers will grow exponentially when other frontline responders learn of our efforts. We will not only send them what they need, we will also lift their spirits and let them know that Americans everywhere appreciate their service and sacrifice. As we ramp up operations to meet the growing need, I'm asking you to do two things. First, sit down with your loved ones today and handwrite a thank you letter for a frontline responder in harm's way. And second, please consider making a donation to Operation Gratitude's COVID-19 Response Fund. It doesn't matter how large or small your contribution is, every little bit helps. Our pledge to you is simple. We will let our actions speak louder than words. We know what must be done, and we are taking action to get it done. As our nation's frontline responders continue to serve in unthinkable conditions, we will continue to support them. Please join our virtual volunteerism movement and do your part to give back to the men and women who are giving everything they can to serve and protect our communities and our nation.
Every little bit counts.
OperationGratitude.com to take action with Operation Gratitude today.
Well, that's outstanding. I know many of our audience members today are going to visit your website after our webinar and find out how they connect. But I want to hear from you ways that we can all do it.
Well, like the video said, the number one way you can do it is to write letters. And that's really the easiest way you can do it from home. We have people all around the country doing it at home. When we were in schools, we had classrooms doing it, we had offices doing it together, but during COVID-19, since we have to be home, it's a really great, simple, easy thing to do with your family. You know, I like to just keep it simple at home and write letters and just plain pieces of card, you know, and my son loves writing, drawing pictures.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the easiest way to get involved.
And what a great family activity. We're all staying home more. We're trying to keep ourselves and our communities safe, and also searching for ways that we can connect with our families, our children, activities that we can do. I can't think of anything better than writing letters and coloring pictures for our troops, our first responders, our caregivers.
Yeah, we have some downloadable coloring pages on our website as well that make it really easy for you to do that with your family.
Oh, fantastic. I mean, this is almost turnkey. Now, what about those bracelets and the scarves that I saw? I have to say those are some of our favorite parts of the care package.
Yeah, so every care package that we make for first responders and the service members come with a paracord bracelet. And these are 7.5 feet of 550 paracord. And they take about 7 to 10 minutes to make, depending on how good you get at it, sometimes a little bit quicker. But you can order these on our, the paracord on our eBay shop on our website. We'll send you a 5-pack of them, and then you can build these paracords, bracelets, and they just kind of tie like this, and then these will go in the care packages. And so this is a really great project for kids that like to keep busy with their hands, for your scout groups, things like that. I've seen some scout groups get on Zoom calls together, and they all have a stack of paracord bracelets or paracord to make bracelets out of, and they do it together over a Zoom. So it's just a really simple, easy, fun thing to make. And then Also, we have, you know, people around the country knit these scarves, hats. I love them. They're so cozy.
Love it. Love, love.
But I mean, so we've got a Facebook group called Operation Gratitude in Action, where a lot of our knitters and crocheters come together and share their patterns and their scarves for these. But the hats and the scarves, you know, are probably the most popular items with the deployed troops. You know, we get pictures back from service members wearing the beanies and the hats out in freezing temperatures, but the smiles on their faces, it's just knowing that somebody took the time to hand make something for them to bring them a little bit of comfort brings them a lot of joy.
Just incredible.
Yeah.
Just incredible. Now, we've got some polls for our audience today. So I'm going to ask Yazmin if she doesn't mind sharing a couple of our poll questions right now. And it's also a great opportunity for you to participate by posting one of your questions for our Q&A session at the end of the show today. So please take our polls, and don't forget to ask some questions of Betsy and Kevin, because they're here to answer your questions about virtual volunteerism. Now, Betsy, I wanted to, before we get into the exercise, because we're going to do homework, but we're going to do it together, so that always makes it easier. Let's give away a couple of prizes. So, Yazmin, do we have some winners?
We sure do. The first winner that I have here that is going to receive a $25 Amazon gift card, a Wounded Warrior Project journal, and an Operation Gratitude shirt. So our first winner here is going to be Kathy Thomas. So Kathy Thomas, I'll be reaching out to you in the chat to get your email, and we'll get your address and we'll get those shipped over to you. The second winner we have here is going to be, let's see, Beth Durbin.
Fantastic. Well, congratulations, Kathy and Beth, and we're so glad that you joined us today. I want to go ahead now, and we're going to switch gears a little bit. Oh, should we get the poll results?
Yeah, so the poll is still going on. So here are the poll questions. So the first one is, have you ever heard of Operation Gratitude prior to this Zoom call? And the second one is, have you received an Operation Gratitude care package? So we'll let you guys fill out the poll, and I'll let Jennifer and Betsy take it back over, and then we'll give the results, and we'll have a second poll shortly.
Thanks, Yazmin. All right, so it's the time we've all been waiting for, our opportunity to do a little virtual volunteerism here together. We're Zooming, right? We're going to have a hands-on activity, but I see that we have a new guest. Betsy, who's joined you?
I have with me my son Matthew, who's 8, and my daughter Emily, and they are going to participate in this part with us because they love doing it with me.
Matthew and Emily, welcome. And I just want to say thank you for being a fine example of how families can get together and do virtual volunteerism and spend time together no matter what's going on outside our home. So take it away, Betsy.
Great. So at the beginning, you remember Jen said you're going to need a pen and paper. So we are going to do a little introduction into letter writing. And so we have our paper here, and I wanted to show you something that unique you could do with your kids if you wanted to make something special. So when my daughter was young, she just painted a piece of paper, and I cut it out and glued it onto a blank card. And so now on the inside, she's going to write a letter to a first responder or a deployed troop. And, you know, it's just kind of a quick and easy way for her to customize and personalize a letter. And then Maddie, show everybody what kind of card you're going to use. What's on it?
Donuts.
Donuts.
Who doesn't like donuts?
And then I have some personalized, just regular cardstock size, but they have the American flag on the back. So I'll use this to write on, but you can use anything, any pen and paper. If you have cards you want to purchase, anything works. So when you think about writing a letter, you have to think about who you're going to write it to. And so we suggest that you write it to a deployed troop. You can write it to a first responder. That includes police, fire, and right now, hospital workers, or you can write it to wounded heroes and caregivers. So kind of think about the demographic you're writing to. And then after that, you just talk from the heart. You tell them why you're grateful for their service. A lot of us on this webinar are also military connected. And so it's really great to kind of include some of your personal story or your personal history without, share as much as you want, but connect with the person you're writing to. But really just a short, sweet note to express your gratitude. So we're going to do that together now. So grab your pen and paper, and we're going to take about a minute, and we're all just going to write together. And Matthew, who are you going to write to today?
The police.
A police officer. And what are you going to tell him?
Thank you for your service.
Yeah. And Emily, who are you going to write to?
Doctors and nurses that are in the hospitals working.
And what kind of things are you going to say in your letter to them?
Thank you for their sacrifice for staying and working to fight against COVID and, not being able to go home and see their own families.
Yeah. And I'm going to write to that same group as well. We've got some great hospitals in this area that have taken care of my husband during crisis time during COVID-19 that I'm especially thankful for. So I'm going to write that quick note.
I think I'm going to write to our wounded heroes. Every day we have deployed troops around the globe, and a lot of people forget that they're being wounded, injured in accidents, they're becoming ill, being diagnosed with diseases and conditions, and I think it's important to remember them.
That's great, Jennifer.
Now, Betsy, are you using stationery, crayons?
It's anything you want to use. So we talked about those printables that we have on our website. Some of the printables have a coloring spot on the top and lines on the bottom, so if the kids want to color. It really doesn't matter what you send it on. We actually have an option to do it virtually as well if you don't want to do it on a handwritten card. We've teamed up with Veterans United. They've created an online platform for us to do digital letter writing. So if you go to veteransunited.com/Operation Gratitude, you can write a digital letter. And what's great about that process, Jennifer, is that there's a machine that will take what you've typed in and create it on a handwritten card, on a note with a machine. We'll write the words in handwriting. So the recipient isn't going to get just a printout that looks like an email. They're going to get a card that looks like it's handwritten.
That's incredible. Now, I would love for our audience to either show of hands or leave us some notes in the chat and let us know, you're letter writing right now, I hope. Everybody came with their paper and their pen. So we'd love to know in the chat who you're writing to, what your inspiration is. I have to say my inspiration is definitely our wounded heroes, our Marines, like Kevin's son and mine and Kevin himself. So I bet you there's some people out there perhaps coloring a picture to the Marines.
That's right. Maddie, who are your heroes?
Daddy.
Yeah.
Oh, that's delightful. Oh, what a sweetheart. You're allowed to cry on this show. I forgot to tell you that.
Are you going to picture with yours this time, Maddie?
Sure.
Okay.
I just want to point out that the digital letter writing is so wonderful for people who perhaps have disabilities or mobility, dexterity issues. I mean, what a wonderful way to be able to handwrite a letter.
That's right. Yeah. So, in our community, like you mentioned, there's a lot of people with all kinds of needs and special needs. And so this really allows everybody to participate in this.
I can't wait to see what you guys have come up with. And I want to invite everybody who's at home writing letters and coloring pictures, if you would like to share those on our Facebook page. Do we have a special hashtag for that, Betsy?
Right now we're just using hashtag virtual volunteerism and tag Operation Gratitude in it. We want to see what you're doing. And when you are finished writing your letters, you go to our website, operationgratitude.com. You'll find all the information you need on where to send it to us. Our address is there, and you send us whatever you make. If you're making paracords or if you're writing letters, you'll fill out a donation form on our website, and you'll get a shipping label or a printing label to ship in. It's super easy, and then you just send it on to us, and we'll take care of getting it out to the right people.
Well, I can't wait to see what everybody's come up with and see those on social media. We've got folks who are commenting about Zen tangling and watercolor, which is super creative, and we have Maddie as our inspiration. And my gosh, you two, and Emily, you guys are just adorable. I'm so glad that you're joined us for today, and I hope that some of our audience members have brought their kids in too to gather by the computer and take part in this virtual volunteerism opportunity. Now, Betsy, do you have a story maybe you could share with our audience about a veteran or a caregiver that has virtually volunteered for Operation Gratitude?
Absolutely. There's one in particular. Her name is Sherry, and she reached out to me when we first started the virtual volunteerism campaign, and said, I want to build paracord bracelets with my family. And I said, that's amazing. Here's all the information. And then she messaged me back a few weeks later with pictures of her oldest son. I'm not sure if she's oldest, but her teenage son has made a whole bunch of them. And what really got me is that Sherry is also a caregiver to a wounded service member. And she told me this heartwarming story that he wanted to participate as well. And it took him a long time, but he got one done. And for him, that was a major accomplishment. So when she told me that they as a family got together to pay it forward, and her husband took the time and the energy and the effort to build a paracord bracelet, my heart was full. And since then, Sherry and her family have continued to build bracelets together. And they are rock stars for us. They are exactly the perfect shining example of what we as a military community can do together to pay it forward. And I thank Sherry and her husband and her family for being amazing Operation Gratitude volunteers.
There she is. We lost you for a second, Betsy. That's okay. We heard the moving story about Sherry and her husband, and it doesn't matter whether you spend 5 minutes or 5 hours volunteering virtually. You will have an impact on someone else, and that's what this is all about: growing our community and supporting one another. So thank you so much for that. Now, what are we able to see your letters? Do you have anything to share with us before we switch gears and talk business with Kevin?
Emily, you want to share yours?
Sure.
Just scoot over so I can see you. There you go.
I just wrote, I was saying thank you to doctors and nurses for working their crazy hours to help fight COVID and take care of the patients that already have it, and not being able to be with their families all the time, and staying away from them for so long. And that I also hope that they're not just taking care of other patients, but that they're taking care of themselves as well, because your own personal health is just as important as everyone else's.
Maddie, do you want to show them what you wrote?
I said thank you for your service.
Very nice.
That's beautiful, Maddie. Great job. And Emily, how touching. I just want to say how meaningful it is that our military kids are learning so much about caregiving and self-care at such a young age. So, and I want to thank you for your commitment to your family and your sacrifices.
Thank you.
Okay, Betsy, what did you come up with?
Oh, I was busy chatting. But I'll finish this letter later. And it was actually going to be along the same lines of Emily. As a caregiver, I think about self-care in a different way. It's not necessarily, for me, it's not taking a hot bath, but it's really taking the time to recharge, right? It's about taking care of my own well-being as a human, right? So I was going to write a little bit tidbit of that in this letter for the hospital workers, reminding them to take time for themselves.
I want to I'm distracted because Maddie's making faces, and that's fantastic. Absolutely. Probably these two are my favorite guests that we've had since all series long. So I'm so glad you're on the show. Now we have now that we have the final results of our poll. So I'm going to ask Yazmin to join us and share those with the audience.
Yes, I'm back. First of all, that was adorable. And everybody is writing in, amazing who they're going to be sending letters to. We have first responders, nurses, Army. I mean, there's such a mix and people are explaining exactly why. So thanks so much, Betsy, for sharing that exercise. For our poll results, majority have heard of Operation Gratitude. About 80% here have heard of Operation Gratitude. 38% have received a care package before. So we'd love to learn more about the rest to understand how they can receive care packages and what that looks like for those who've not received one. I'll let you guys get back to it. And just so you know, for our attendees, we have 2 more winners that we'll be announcing towards the end. And thanks for all the great Q&A questions. We'll be getting to those soon, and Betsy will be able to answer, and Kevin, answer all your questions that are coming in on Operation Gratitude.
Well, I just want to say it really tells you a lot about the caregiving community and the veteran community that we have so many participants in today's show who have not only been recipients of Operation Gratitude and all those volunteers, but who now want to give back. And that's really how we impact our community. So well, I'd like to switch gears a little bit now and talk to you, Kevin. You told us about your service, about your family's commitment to serve, but I want to ask you, maybe tell us about a time when you were deployed. Did you receive care packages?
That's a great question. And probably part of the reason that I took the role as the CEO of Operation Gratitude about 2.5 years ago. As a young second lieutenant deployed to the Middle East for Operation Desert Storm, I received my first care package from my parents and my brothers and sisters. I have a family of 6 brothers and sisters, so quite a big family, and 4 of them are much younger than I am. So they put a care package together with some of my favorite items, to include Snickers bars and coffee and a bunch of handwritten letters that my sister, who was in middle school at the time, collected with all of her friends and classmates. And it meant a lot to me then. Later on in my career, my last year in the Marine Corps, I was deployed to the Middle East for an entire year, working for a general named Jim Jones, who I served with at NATO as well. And we were working on the peace process in the Middle East. And that care package contained items from my 3 sons. And it was mostly the things that hit me the hardest were the ones that they handmade themselves. So I think for me, it really, my son got care packages and letters from me too. So for me, this is about taking care of people who don't necessarily get those packages or those letters. And when I was deployed as a Marine over my 20 years of service, I saw way too many Marines, soldiers, airmen, sailors, who were deployed for several months who never got a care package or letters. And that's really why I wanted to be a part of this organization. And the second reason was I wanted to be part of an organization that gives people a sense of purpose every day. And I think your point about helping others really helps you, really resonates with me. And it's amazing to be part of an organization that has 1 million volunteers across the country that have that sense of purpose in a hands-on way.
It's just incredible. And, you know, ultimately it isn't what's in the box. You know, it's the care part of the package that really impacts the recipients. And I know many of our audience members have probably assumed, well, in this digital age, you know, who needs regular mail, who needs a handwritten letter? But the truth is that those are still the heartfelt things that really make the difference when you're going through tough times, like a deployment, or after being wounded, serving at a hospital during COVID-19. So yeah. I think we can't underestimate the power that's inside those boxes.
I mean, there's a letter that I carry around with me. I carried it around for almost a year and 4 months now. And the ones that hit me the hardest are the ones from the dads and moms who are deployed. But this young father of 4, it was his first deployment away from his family. And he was deployed during the holidays. So he sent this email to us right after Christmas. And he said the items in the care package, he didn't really call them out by name, but he said those items and the letters brought joy to an otherwise lonely heart. And he said he will ensure that he and his soldiers pay it forward. And I'll never forget those words, because that care package and those letters impacted him more than the people who wrote those letters will ever know. And, I spoke to a young doctor on the phone in Elmhurst Hospital who learned that Operation Gratitude was going to send more than 20,000 individual items and hundreds of handwritten letters to their doctors and nurses. And she started crying on the phone. And she said it was nice to get on the phone and describe the emergency room as it was, like a battlefield and controlled chaos, and speak to organizations. And this is really about Operation Gratitude and organizations like Elizabeth Dole Foundation, who understand exactly what she meant when she described those conditions and could commiserate and empathize. And the fact that veterans across the country like us, caregivers like Betsy, families like this, like I read these chats and knowing that they're writing the letters, the impact that it's having on those doctors and nurses, those police officers, firefighters, and EMTs is tangible. It's there because it moves them beyond words, because they know that we understand what they're going through right now. And that's really important.
So powerful. Now, speaking of power, I think all of this is possible because of the power of partnerships. Our Series C3 is possible because of our partnerships with Wounded Warrior Project and the Department of Veterans Affairs. But what does the power of partnerships mean to you? How does your organization leverage those to serve others?
Yeah, so I should start by saying Elizabeth Dole Foundation is one of our best partners. Right from the start, the CEO of Elizabeth Dole Foundation, Steve Schwab, has been a great partner, colleague, friend, and a great leader. And he understands the power of partnership too. I grew up in a world when I founded Hiring Our Heroes, the first nonprofit that I ran, where partnerships had a greater impact. And I really believe that if organizations in the military and veteran space work together, they can truly make a greater difference. And we've worked with Elizabeth Dole Foundation on the care package deliveries that we made to thousands of hidden heroes. We work with them working with them on this virtual volunteerism concept. And we're working with them now and 6 other nonprofits in the military and veteran space to pay gratitude forward during Military Appreciation Month and during the month of Military Caregiver. And this is critically important. And we're not talking little nonprofits. We're talking about the Mission Continues. We're talking about National Military Family Association, Bunker Labs, the Student Veterans of America, Team Rubicon, and TAPS. And Imagine Families of the Fallen paying it forward as part of their healing process, right? This is an incredible opportunity. And when nonprofits put kind of not put their own agendas aside, but collectively look at their agendas and look for ways to collaborate, we can have a much greater impact. And the men and women on the front lines of this pandemic need it right now. And we have been there before. And they are going through the same things that we went through when we were in the Middle East, when we were in Iraq, when we were in Afghanistan. And they're hearing, thank you for your service. And they're struggling with how to cope with people saying that to them, just like many of us have been, right? And they have resentment that there are people who are saying that to them who truly mean it. And we as veterans, we as people who served in the military and experience what they're experiencing now in a very heartfelt way in a letter can help them through some of the struggles that they're having. And we will help them after. And what I pledge to those other nonprofits and what I pledge to Elizabeth Dole Foundation, we will, as Operation Gratitude, partner in any way we can on an initiative that makes sense. For us right now, it's paying gratitude forward, writing letters, saying thank you for your courage in the video, which everyone will hear about in a little bit. I'm just proud to be associated with people like Steve and people like Mary Beth Brueggemann and people like Bonnie Carroll and people like Jake Wood who understand the power of partnership too. And that's what we need. And the American public and people around the world have said they want to see corporations and they want to see nonprofits and they want to see organizations working together to achieve greater good. There was a poll by a group called Edelman. It's a massive communications company. They polled 12,000 people in 12 countries. 90% of those people said exactly what I just told you. They want to see organizations working together to achieve a greater good. That's the power of partnership.
And you said it perfectly. Just such a great opportunity for all of us to give back and share our experiences to help others and help ourselves. There's healing in that. Okay, well, we're gonna see what other folks have to say and what questions they have for you and Betsy. So we'll turn it over to Yazmin and ask her to also post our next 2 polls, if she wouldn't mind.
Yep. So we are going to launch the second poll here right now. So just launch the poll. So the next one is going to be, have you ever participated as a volunteer with Operation Gratitude? As they said, they have a lot of volunteers. So want to see how many of you have already volunteered with them. The second one is, was today's exercise the first time you learned about virtual volunteerism? So we'll leave that poll up. And now I have some questions for Betsy and Kevin. So the first one, Betsy, I think you mentioned this in the beginning. So this comes from Kathy. What was the Facebook group for sharing patterns that you mentioned? Let me unmute you here. Here you go.
Thank you. So we have a Facebook group called OG in Action, Operation Gratitude in Action. And we can share that link after this is over. We can, and anybody that would like to do any kind of virtual volunteerism with us can go in that group. And we actually have weekly Zoom calls with our fantastic Kelly South, who runs our Handmade with Love program, where knitters and crocheters can come together on Zoom and knit and crochet together. And they share ideas and they share patterns. We also have all the patterns and the sizing guidelines and the yarn guidelines listed on our website as well. And we can share all those links in the follow-up email.
Yep, great. Thanks so much, Betsy. So one of the other questions was, what are the requirements to receive a care package from Operation Gratitude? And anything needed to prove that you're a caregiver, or that you're, how does that work?
So unfortunately, right now, we're not taking new individual requests for Wounded Hero and Caregiver care packages because we don't have the capability to build them right now, because we usually use our volunteers to build them. But when we open back up, we'll have a portal on our website where they can go in and fill out their contact information. And really, it's super simple to show that you're a caregiver. You do not have to be a part of the VA's caregiver program. I need something from somebody saying that you're doing something for your caregiver, as a caregiver. So whether that's a doctor's note or your DD-214 from your service member, or whatever it is, we have all the guidelines on our website. So it's really quite easy, and we're all inclusive. We're pre 9/11, post 9/11. If you're a caregiver to somebody, we want to get one of these boxes into your hands.
Yeah, and one of the reasons we partner with groups like Dole is so that we know that they're part of your group, right? Part of your organization. So if they are identified as a hidden hero, we know that they've been vetted by Dole, and that's enough information for us. I would like to say as the CEO that I'll make 2 pledges. One, we will fulfill every request for care packages that we get from you as soon as this lifts. And 2, we'll talk to Steve and the Dole team about a creative way to do that before this lifts too. We're good, and so is the Elizabeth Dole Foundation, on finding creative ways to figure out how to meet the needs of the communities we serve. So the first pledge, I promise you, when it does lift, we will send those white boxes to you. But in the meantime, I'll talk to Steve and we'll figure out a way to do something else for all of you.
I would say we'll hold you to that, Kevin, but you're a Marine and your word is your word. We trust you. That's outstanding.
Well, that's great.
Betsy will hold me accountable, so you don't have to.
Well, that's wonderful. So thank you so much. Betsy, you already answered this question. So it is available for all eras, correct?
Correct, yes, yeah.
Okay, perfect. And does Operation Gratitude honor those virtual volunteers some way who have helped out? Is there like an online recognition or anything for your volunteers?
I mean, if somebody needs, you know, proof that they've been a volunteer, then, you know, we can sign whatever forms. But we do have our, you know, our group for our volunteers, and so we do a lot of support in there as well. And then at our assembly days in California, we call out our volunteers a lot for all the recognition that they and support that they've given us. And then we also have a team of our all-star volunteers that we call blue shirts. And they get actually their own VIP blue shirts to wear, and they are kind of our rock star volunteers, the ones that have committed a lot of their in-person time at our warehouse in California. So, and we do a lot of time, a lot of things for them at our warehouse out there. So yes, we do. We support them as much as we can.
I'm sure they're anxious to get back to helping you.
They are.
Yeah, and there's two other ways. We do share stories from time to time on social media about volunteers who have gone above and beyond. And we do work with organizations on blogs to feature members from their communities that have done virtual volunteerism or volunteerism as a whole with us. So again, something that as true partners we can work together on as this takes hold.
And if you follow us on social media as well, we're always sharing photos of people that are doing this virtual volunteerism. You know, I had one mother send a photo of her son, young son, about 8 years old, saying that he was writing a letter to pay it forward, but his father was in the military and his two older brothers one was a firefighter, one was in the military. And I was like, well, I have to share that now, right? So you share it with us and we'll share it on social media too.
Next question is, how do you go about donating other items for the care packages? What else can they do? And this second question kind of goes into that too. Do you take monetary donation? Is there a way for a family to sponsor the care packages so that you guys can get them out?
Yes.
Yes.
You want to take this one?
So we have on our website the various ways that people can volunteer, to include, I didn't write a letter, but I actually, while we were doing this, I fidgeted and hand made a paracord bracelet because I didn't have mine on and I wanted to show people. But knitting scarves and crocheting and writing the letters, you've heard about it. But we have folks that host collection drives. We receive 300 to 400,000 pounds of Halloween candy every year from 5,000 different communities across the country.
That's amazing.
There are young students in their schools that host a Sense for Service drive, inspired by two young girls who collected $1,200, 10-year-old girls several years ago. And they literally carried a jar from classroom to classroom and people collected loose change. So there's a myriad of ways for people to get involved, and they just need to go to our website and they can search for those things. You know, at a time of COVID-19, that video is not directed to generate donations. We are truly a grassroots organization. Think about the fact that our founder started this on our living room table, and now there are literally 1 million people doing these things across the country on their living room tables during COVID-19, right? So if people want to make a small donation, it literally costs between $12 and $15 to ship a care package overseas, and we make it very easy for people to do it. But I want this group to know that for us, the best way for you to support Operation Gratitude right now is through those letters. And we call it time, treasure, talent. Put your time into it, put your talent to it. And if you're inspired and you want to help us ship care packages, you can give us a little treasure too, but that's not what this is about today. We really want you to be part of what we do, to find the same sense of purpose and to pay gratitude forward. That's what this is about. And we have a really neat way that we're going to talk about. So that's kind of cool too.
Yep, we'll close out the show with that call to action. It's a little bit of a teaser. I promise it's going to be fun and interactive and something that we hope spreads like wildfire. Do we have more questions, Yazmin?
Yeah, just one more question and then I'll give the poll results. See, last question is, a lot of our caregivers have started, are super big advocates and have started their own caregiver groups and nonprofits. And so they're wondering, how does an organization become a partner of Operation Gratitude?
That's probably a good question for me to answer. I think it's best for them to reach out to Betsy with what their idea is, what their nonprofit is, and how they would like to partner. You know, we'll always consider this. When you get to an organization that's this big, I have one rule as a CEO: you never say no to a meeting or a phone call, because you never know where the greatest next idea is. And we owe that to caregivers and everyone in the veteran community who wants to give back. That's how I started my first nonprofit, and that's how Carolyn started this. She sent 4 care packages on the day the invasion of Iraq started.
Perfect.
Just send it to
Okay,
me.
great.
We'll work on it.
All right, awesome. So now
Oh, we lost Yazmin for a minute. There she is.
okay, great. Sorry, internet. This is the new normal. How internet works sometimes. So I'm just going to quickly go through our poll results, and then our new winners, our 2 new winners. So the next poll results: have you ever participated or volunteered? 15% have, but 85% haven't. So now there's a new opportunity, now that you guys know, to volunteer. And majority of the group, this was their first time hearing about virtual volunteerism. So everybody's saying thank you for that. Now for our winners, the second winners here, we're gonna have Darcy Mahoney is gonna be our next winner, and Angelina Young. So those are gonna be our next winners here. So I'm gonna go ahead, send me your email in the chat, and we have an exciting new opportunity that they're gonna share with you now. That's really cool. So I'll let you guys take it away with the Courage for Heroes.
Yeah, so when I first heard about this tutorial we were going to have today, I became so excited. Betsy and Kevin had no idea that my grandmother was an interpreter for the deaf. She learned sign language, taught me a little sign language as a child, and she served others in her community by going with them to banks and to attorneys' offices and running errands, and sometimes interpreting at church. And so I got a little teary when I found out what we're going to do today. So Betsy, can you tell us about Courage for Heroes?
Absolutely. So, you know, during this pandemic, we're wearing all these face masks when we're going out now, and the hospital workers and the fire department and police officers, they're all covering their faces. And us as grateful Americans also are covering our faces. And so we wanted to come up with a way to still thank them for their service, thank them for their courage for being out on those front lines in a universal way without having to use our mouth. So we would like to teach you how to say thank you for your courage in sign language, so that you can go out into your communities and thank those in your communities. And so you can record a video saying thank you for your courage in sign language and share it on social media, so people can see that we're not going to be stopped by a face mask to tell everybody thank you.
I think it's really important to say thank you in this day and age, even when we're physically apart. We don't have to be apart as a community, and saying thank you is just the perfect way to connect us with other people. So Betsy, how are we going to learn this? Do you know sign language?
Well, I did not, but I did. Operation Gratitude, we did hire a professional interpreter to teach us how to correctly say it. And so we're going to go over that with you today, but then also know that we have on our website instructions and a video tutorial that you can watch at your convenience to learn how to do it. There are a couple little parts to it, and we'll go over it now. So in ASL, they don't say it typically the same way we do. It's kind of broken up into different sections. So we would say thank you for your courage, but in ASL, you'll say it, your courage, thank you. So we'll do that now. So it's your courage, thank you. So it's kind of 3 parts: your courage, thank you. And the big part about it is to use your facial expressions when you do it, and to kind of lean forward in that first part. So your courage, and then lean back when you say thank you, and make sure you're using your eyes. And it's really simple.
Such a super important tip. And when we're wearing masks, we're out in public, your eyes can tell a whole story. So I appreciate that tip. Let's go through it one more time.
Okay, here we go. Your courage, thank you.
I love it. Now, once we've practiced this with our family and we're ready to start signing this important message, what do we do? How do we share it?
Yeah, so you just take your cell phone, right? And you just have somebody record a very brief intro. Say, hi, I'm Betsy, and I really want to thank the frontline responders for their courage. And then you just go right into the sign. You upload that to your favorite social media platform, and then you use the hashtag Courage for Heroes, and just spread it like wildfire with everybody. Let everybody know that you're thankful for what they're doing.
So hashtag courage, the number 4 heroes. That's it?
That's it.
Well, I want to invite all of our audience members to videotape yourself signing with your family signing, your neighborhood signing, and upload that on your social media channels using the hashtag Courage for Heroes.
Yeah, and just real briefly, it's on our website already right now, operationgratitude.com/courage for heroes. The tutorial's up there, the step-by-step instructions. So we encourage you to go check that out and record those videos, and we can't wait to see them online.
Well, what a great show today. Amazing efforts that you're doing at Operation Gratitude to support those who are near and far, and also a way for everyone to get involved through virtual volunteerism. So we're so grateful that you were here today to not only share what you're doing, but also answer questions and help us educate others on ways that they can connect with their community. So Betsy, thank you for sharing the website, and I assume you're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram.
We're on all the places.
Fantastic. And so we want to encourage all of you to not only connect with Operation Gratitude online, but to connect with the Elizabeth Dole Foundation. If you're a military or veteran caregiver, we'd like to invite you to join our Hidden Heroes caregiver community. You can visit hiddenheroes.org and learn more about registering as a caregiver and being part of a very special community that brings you shows like this, like C3 Caregiver Community Connection, but also connects you to other caregivers near and far who care for wounded, ill, or injured military members and veterans. And you can find positive encouragement, find support and resources that you need for your caregiving journey. So we want to connect with you there. And we also want you to connect with us on our social media. Elizabeth Dole Foundation is on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. And don't forget about our presenting sponsors, Wounded Warrior Project and the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. That's where you can find all the information about their organizations, is connecting with them on social media. Now, we want everyone here today to stay posted for an email that we'll send out summarizing everything we learned today and all the ways that you can virtually volunteer with your family. And as always, we're open to suggestions on future topics and speakers, so please email us, info@elizabethdolefoundation.org. Kevin, Betsy, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, everyone.
And Yazmin, thank you for making this show possible. We couldn't do it without you, and we're so grateful to have you. Thanks to our presenting sponsors, Wounded Warrior Project, the Department of Veterans Affairs, and thanks to Operation Gratitude. We look forward to seeing you on our very next episode, which is coming up next Tuesday. And I have all the details here to share with you, but also we want to make sure that you know you can find our replays anytime on our YouTube channel. And if you're a member of the Hidden Heroes caregiver community, you can find the replays there too. So we'll see you on the 19th at 4 o'clock so that you can learn how to promote a positive well-being in your daily life. So looking forward to that. Take care, everyone. Until next time.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.